Hi there, and welcome to the Anita Chat podcast. I'm your host, Anita Rombo, and this is the podcast for growth-oriented women to have authentic, real talk. Nothing is off the table here, but as an intuitive self-relationship coach, you'll find the content gravitates towards mindset, intentional action, spirituality, and all things wellness. So if you're ready to learn, laugh, show up, and glow up to be the best version of yourself, grab your favorite bevy, settle in, and we've got lots to chat about. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of I Need to Chat. I hope that you guys are doing fabulous. I am literally sitting here in my office recording this episode with a cup of amazing coffee in my hand. It's the first coffee of the day. The sun is out and the sky is baby blue and there's not a cloud in the sky. And I'm feeling this vibe. It feels great. So irrespective of when you happen to land upon this podcast episode, I really wanted to send a special shout out to you, my beloved listener. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know that this podcast has seen a ton of growth and it's amazing. It's surpassed my wildest dreams, and I wouldn't be here without all of your love and support and encouragement, whether you're a new listener or an old listener. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope that you continue to be served by this community that we're building together and by these short, inspirational, yet actionable episodes that I hope are very authentic to you. So thank you again. And on that same type of note of reflection, one of the things that struck me by surprise this morning was the fact that we are into mid-August. Like, how did that even happen? I don't even know. I know that there has been a ton on the go, and I've been very intentional with how I've been spending my time. And if I'm not busy working, then I'm busy soaking in the summer and all the connection and family time, etc. But before you know it, it will be back to school time. I seem to go through this phase of kind of bittersweetness at around this time every year. Realizing that the summer is winding down, I really want to maximize and soak up all of those last days of summer. So I hope that you are doing the same. But also, I'm super excited for the fall. I'm super excited for cozy sweaters and pumpkin spice everything. And another one of the things that I really love about September is back to school season. And I know that I might be very far away from school age, but let me tell you, the lifelong student and learner in me is always enrolled in 2 to 3 courses at a time. I just love learning so much. But also, even if it's not you yourself that might be learning, perhaps you're a parent and you can't wait for your kids to get back to school and for you guys to have a different routine. I can totally relate to that too. The summer has been full of a lot of great fun experiences for the kids, but it can get chaotic at times. But also maybe you yourself are returning back to school. And if you are, that's amazing. And I'm sure that you probably are also feeling bittersweet about perhaps saying goodbye to a relaxing summer and getting back into the books. Having said all of that, I really associate September with the equivalent of a new year. In fact, in some ways, it has more of a new year vibe to me. Getting fresh new school supplies, brand new outfits to start the school year, and of course, starting those new routines and new classrooms and new learning, all of that type of stuff has permanently been ingrained in me as a time of new beginnings and a time of getting back to business. And so, having said all of that, I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but I'm super excited and I'm waiting for that coffee to kick in. I have decided to host a Back to Self challenge. And you and my email list right now are the first people to know about it. And it's going to be entirely free and it's going to be 10 days. And it's going to require perhaps a 20-minute investment of your time, a 20-minute investment into yourself to bring you back to self again. This challenge is all about supporting mind, body, and soul alignment, because when we are connected and aligned to ourselves, wonderful things happen
both obviously inside of ourselves, we feel amazing, but also in our outer worlds. And I invite you to join in. So I will put this link to this Back to Self challenge in the episode description. If you're on my email list, you'll also receive information there, and it will also be all over my social media platforms. Again, it's completely free, so you have nothing to lose, but tons to gain. So I highly, highly recommend that you take me up on it. And it's not going to be very complicated. And it's going to be something that you can do on your own time, simply because I recognize that we're all so very busy. And if you're going to make an investment in yourself, I want you to be able to do it in the easiest way. And if something more sustainable comes out of this at the end of the day for you, wonderful. And if not, then you've just given yourself the gift of reconnecting to who you are and your health and well-being for 10 days. All right. So thanks for humoring me. Let's dive into this episode. Today, I want to talk about a phenomenon that seems to be permeating our lives, and that phenomenon is busyness. And I'm sure we can all relate to being busy. And part of this is due in part because we pride action as a society. There is some sort of unspoken gold standard that really values busyness. If you take a look at even how our time is structured, right, we have 5 work days and 2 rest days or weekends, right? Our boss wants to see results. He doesn't want to see you on a coffee break. That mama gold standard that we think of is often the mom that's doing a cajillion things at once and, of course, managing it all with ease and grace. But seriously, if you ask anyone how their day went or how they're doing, oftentimes you get fine and busy as your answers. And maybe it's just because those are the simplest things to say, and those are answers that we all understand and we don't really go deeper into conversation. But I can say, for me, I have never met somebody say that they are calm, that they are focused, that they're peaceful as their answers to how are you doing. Wonder if you have. Let me know. So my question to you or to us this morning as we reflect together is busy what we should be striving for? And I'm going to say absolutely not. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about results and action. If you know me, you know I'm a goal getter, and this whole podcast is full of listeners that are like me. But if you don't know by now, you now will know that one of my core pillars of transformation is intentional action. And so intentional action is a core pillar in my own life and my own philosophy because I walk my own talk, but also in my coaching curriculum. And that is very different from busyness. Also, while we are in the state of or in the act of doing and getting things done, I also really do believe that there's a time and place for resting, and we need to balance being, just being with ourselves, and we need to balance that being with doing. And so I've touched on that in a lot of other episodes, such as one of my favorite ones, What's Your Season, which I think is episode number 12. And I'll link to that in the episode description. It was a super popular episode. So I won't go into that direction into today's chat just because I've already covered that in other chats, and I encourage you to tune into those instead. Acknowledging that there needs to be a balance between being and doing is a form of busyness. I will focus our chat on that context today, and I'll pose the same question again that I asked just a couple of moments ago, which is busy what we should be striving for? And again, my personal answer remains a steadfast no. Instead of striving for busy, I think we should be striving for productivity. Busy to me, in my own interpretation, is about action, and productivity to me is about intentional action, which, spoiler alert, you've already heard me say is one of my core pillars of life and of my coaching business. And intentional action to me, I define that as habits and routines and beginning with the end in mind and focusing on things that will bring the greatest results. So I do think that intentional action and productivity is very different from being busy. And that's just my interpretation. So in preparation for this episode, I actually checked the dictionary definition to see how my interpretation jives with the dictionary definition. And I was pretty bang on. The dictionary definition of busy is being in use or occupied, whereas the definition of productivity is having the quality or power of producing, especially in abundance. So, my sweet friends, we only have 24 hours in a day. And as growth oriented goal getters, we have lots on the go. And it's so easy to get wrapped up in the busy or to do list because there's always a to do list, right? But is it the right stuff? And I'm going to make an assumption that, once again, if you are like me and subscribe to the working smarter, not harder philosophy, then we can and we should be looking for ways to boost our productivity for maximum results with minimal effort so that we can experience and enjoy our downtime, whatever that may look like for you, especially in these winding down days of summer, as we started off reflecting on. And so, before we go deeper into this episode, I do want to say that if you are enjoying this podcast and you know someone who would also enjoy and benefit from working smarter, not harder, maybe someone that you enjoy spending your downtime with so that you can both use this time that you save from applying what you learn here together, can you do me a favor and share this episode with them or any other episode that really resonated with you with them? It would really help me in creating the big impact that I want to make. And I thank you so much for helping me out with that vision. And also, if you are enjoying this podcast, I really appreciate any type of rating and reviewing that you could do on the podcast platform that you access these podcasts from. Again, it helps me get my message out to others that may also appreciate it. Since both being busy and being productive involve a state of doing, it may come as autopilot to us. Sometimes I think that we just sit down, we know that we've got an hour to like whip something off and we don't even think about it. We just start doing. And we're not necessarily thinking about, are we being busy or being productive? We're just getting right to it. I thought it would be good to provide you with some questions that you can ask yourself to determine whether you are busy or productive. In essence, these questions just help us be a little bit more intentional about how we might spend that spare hour that we get. So the 3 questions that I think would be very helpful for you to ask yourself is, number 1, what is the energy of the activity or your energy in general feel like? 2, what is your objective or why? What are you doing this for? And 3, are you doing multiple things at once? I'll use myself as an example here. So let's take a look at me on Saturday mornings. So Saturday mornings in particular is the time that I like to get most of my weekly chores out of the way. So to put in the loads of laundry and to do the deep cleans of the house, etc. And so if I were to take a look at what the first question, what is the energy of the activity or my energy feel like? When I think of the energy of a to-do list or my to-do list on a Saturday morning, my energy is one of feeling rushed or trying to get something done by a certain time. I really don't want my whole Saturday to be about housework. So I want to get it done and get it done fast. And I want to be able to move on to the next thing or to be done altogether in a best case scenario. And I'm a multitasking machine during this. So, for example, I've got a load of laundry in and I could be baking muffins for kids' lunches while going through their fridge and making a meal plan and ordering groceries online. I could be doing all of that at the same time. My Saturday morning chores are things that I feel I need to get done on the weekend so that I can have an organized and calm work week ahead. I really don't want to be dealing with any of that Monday to Friday. Now, if I compare that energy of Saturday morning to perhaps Sunday afternoon, on Sunday afternoons, I spend a few hours uninterrupted in the office working on the podcast and doing some strategy work for my coaching business. And the energy of the work feels very focused. I know what I'm working on. I know that I'm in here for a certain amount of time and I'm as distraction free as possible so I could be in the zone. So I show up and I put in my dedicated amount of time to accomplishing 1 or maybe 2 things at the most. And at the end of it, I want my podcast episode drafted and recorded and possibly to have started the editing process. And because I'm fulfilling a bigger or larger goal, I may not get all of it done, but it also fulfills a larger purpose, which is to create impact, to coach, to guide and support others. So it fills my cup. So the energy is usually one full of eagerness because I'm excited to do the work. I'm savoring the activity in itself because it fuels something bigger in me. I'm not going to lie, sometimes I do feel a bit unmotivated. It is a Sunday afternoon and I might want to do something different. But in general, I don't really notice the time because it is something I enjoy and I fully immerse myself in the moment. And at the end of my time block, I have produced or nearly finished something of high quality that feeds into a bigger picture for me. So when I'm in the office working on that podcast, I'm not able to multitask. I am all in. And so do you get the idea here of the difference between the busy work and the productive work and how that looks different for me and how the energy feels different for me or the energy behind the activity feels different for me on a Saturday morning versus Sunday, right? Now, having said that, I mentioned earlier the importance of creating opportunities to shift between being and doing. And then I've shown you the difference between busy work and productive work. But I also think it's important for me to acknowledge that we can't always get away from all the busy work in our life. Unless, of course, we're in a position where we can delegate it or outsource it, chances are there will always be something that needs to get done that is a bit mundane. And that shows up at work and that shows up at home. So, for example, take the weekly cleaning of your home. Like I used in my example, you may have a housekeeper. Your family may contribute to the cleaning. So maybe that's a way that you can delegate it or outsource it or split the love a little bit, or maybe even both. But chances are there's still garbage to take to the curb on a weekday or daily dishwashing, etc. So even if you go hard on a weekend, there's still some bits of housekeeping that need to kind of happen over the course of the week. Or when it comes to work, despite which role you hold, there'll always be some emails that need responding to, or some meetings that need to be scheduled, or actioning or following up on things that come from meetings that has to happen. So being busy also has a place in our day to day. And I think the trick is to shift the proportion of our doing to be more productivity heavy and recognizing that we can't get away from being busy all the time. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes we may fall in the busy trap. Sometimes it feels better to be busy than productive because it's easier than being in a productivity space. And so I am totally guilty of this from time to time. And maybe you will see a little bit of my behaviors in you as well. But I do this sometimes as my way of procrastinating. I also am guilty of this because I feel more in control when I can cross off 30 little things off my to-do list versus 1 to 2 big things. I love lists. And I love lists because not only do I like to see it, but I love crossing them off or hearing the little ding if I use an electronic list on my phone. And so crossing off 30 little things to me just feels so amazing. And if I only crossed off 1 to 2 big things, and had a huge list, I would probably feel a little bit overwhelmed by that. And obviously, a list doesn't capture the magnitude or importance of a task. So 1 to 2 big things is probably the equivalent of 30 little things, or maybe even more. But there's something psychologically that just loves crossing those little things off. And so that's one of the reasons why I may prefer to be in the busy trap versus the productivity space. Or perhaps I don't feel like doing the deep thinking, but I still want to make progress by doing something. So I mentioned usually on Sunday afternoons, I'm feeling pretty motivated and I have a set block of time to do some deep work. But what happens if it's a Sunday where I'm not feeling motivated? I still want to show up and do something. I'd rather just show up for an hour or two and just hammer out all these other things that might need to get done, like some admin stuff or paperwork and back end things. It's not deep thinking. It's very mundane, but it's still progress, right? Or maybe sometimes I tell myself I don't have the time to do the productivity work, but I've got like maybe 10 to 15 minutes or 20-minute block, and I can easily use that time to do some mundane things. So as I mentioned, these are just some of the ways that I know I limit myself or trap myself into the busy space versus the productivity space. It is absolutely possible to use even short buckets of time to be super productive as a coach and as a person who can get herself out of these kind of busy trap funks. I know it's something that's totally possible. So now I'm going to share with you some strategies and tips in terms of how to do that. So how to stay in the productivity realm of things versus the busy realm of things. And I'm going to share 3 tips with you. So the first tip is start with an end goal. So you've heard me say this many times on various podcasts, all referring to different things, but this is a really important question to keep in your back pocket at all times. And in this case, it's what is your why in relation to, of course, your productivity? What is your why? So recall that I equated productivity with intentional action at the beginning of the episode. So, having an intention about what you want to accomplish that is meaningful and purposeful to you will keep you in the productive versus busy headspace. So, why am I doing this? The second tip is prioritize. So now that you have an end goal, think of the top things that will help you achieve the end goal and make a game plan on how you're going to approach those top things. So let's say my why is I want to show up every Wednesday and deliver a podcast episode to coach, inspire, uplift, educate, motivate, guide people to living their best life. That is my why. So the top things that have to happen for me to achieve that goal is I have to show up and write an episode. Think of an episode idea and script the episode idea. I need to record the episode idea. I need to edit the episode. And then once I've actually have created the thing, I need to promote it and publish it. I need to share it with people so that they can access it and enjoy it as well. So think about that game plan and how you're going to approach those top things or those big buckets. And think about, is there a natural sequence where one comes before another? For example, I can't promote an episode before it's recorded, so that naturally has to come first. Or you might think about, is one easier to implement than the other? Or does one bring results faster, but another brings higher quality results? So how do those top things that help you achieve your end goal serve your why? And is there some sort of a priority sequence in which you want to approach getting those things done? And the last tip I have for you is stay focused. To do a big thing or produce something that is intentional, you can't do all the things at once. In fact, you can't do all the things, period. So learn which things will move your needle closer to that end goal and make those the things that you focus on, your priorities, as we mentioned. Learn to say no to the things that aren't aligned to your purpose at all. And when you're tackling those things that are aligned, minimize those distractions by time blocking, by shutting email notifications, by getting all those snacks out of your face. Whatever it is that you find is your way to distract yourself, get rid of it or minimize it if possible when you're in the zone. So you're maximizing your focus on what you are doing to accomplish your why. So my friends, my challenge for you this week is for you to do an audit on your own life and see where you may be falling in the busy versus productive spectrum. Do you have an opportunity to decrease your busy and increase your productivity? And you can ask yourself those questions that we went over in the episode to help you figure that out, and then use the suggestions I just mentioned to help you stay more in the productivity realm of things. So before I sign off, I wanted to remind you again that the registration details for my free Back to Self Challenge, which is going to be happening in mid-September once we've kind of gotten a week or two down of the new school routine, will be starting. So please feel free to register, and also check out my free downloadable guide, 10 Daily Habits to Love, Peace, and Success, because who doesn't want those things, right? You are worth every investment in you. So let's get you back to yourself and get that guide for sure. The habits and examples in the guide are simple and practical, but super powerful. And that will also be linked in the episode description. With that, my friends, take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Anita Chat podcast. If you haven't taken a minute to leave a review, I would absolutely love to hear from you. All you need to do is to search for the show, click your star rating, and type in a few words. Also, if there's a specific topic you'd like to see covered in this podcast, if you'd like me to be your coach, or if you want to just chat, feel free to send me an email or shoot me a message through my IG, which you'll find in the show notes. The show notes will also contain any links to the freebies that were referenced in this episode. Until next time, friends, it's been great chatting with you.